Talk and Rock Radio, where friends meet at the intersection of life, inspiration, and music. Here's your host, Rick Kern.
Welcome, everyone, to Talk and Rock Radio. We are so pleased today to have these guys on with me. I have, ever since I started this show about 3 months ago, I have fantasized about getting these three particular guys together. Not only are they great broadcasters and have been doing it all their lives, but they're also very good friends of mine. And I am so happy to have with us today in the house is Johnny Thompson from Daytona Beach, Florida. We've got Sonny Melendrez from San Antonio, Texas. And we have from down under, Pete Heinlein from Canberra, Australia. Welcome, guys.
You're the champion.
Wow.
Far awayness.
Exactly.
Hey, Rick.
Exactly.
Rick, I know it's your show. Can I interrupt for a moment?
Please do.
Okay, I know you're a singer, so I want you to sing KINT when I point to you. Okay?
Oh, I don't remember. I don't remember the jingle. Sorry, you'll have to get Sonny to do that.
Just say KINT. Just say KINT. All right.
Okay.
When I point to you. All right.
Okay.
We're gonna start it now. Da 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 da. Ladies and gentlemen, Sonny Melendrez.
KINT.
All right. Da 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 da. Ladies and gentlemen, Michael McCoy.
Oh,
Heinlein.
I haven't been called that in a while.
Yeah, right.
How's that, Sonny? Bring back
That's
memories?
great. The Young Americans.
Yes, exactly.
We're back together.
Yeah. The 55 years
man.
ago, man. Crap.
Can you believe it? Unbelievable.
No.
Where's Ricky? We got to have Ricky if we're going to have the Young Americans.
That's true.
Well,
Back to your show now.
It's,
now that I've done the proper introduction.
thank you guys for agreeing to do this show because there's a lot of stories out there, and some of which we probably will not be able to tell today. That'll be for another show. I see Pete going, yeah. But anyway, we can share a bunch of funny ones and some good ones. And, I've been really thinking hard on this. When I go to bed at night, I think myself to sleep about what would be the best question to ask you guys as a starting question in this interview. And the best one I can come up with is, which one of you guys was the most favorite at KINT?
What kind of question is that?
Yeah. I mean, Pete did have, I think, his own private female fan club that I didn't have,
What's so funny is that we were all, at UTEP. And this was like our clubhouse. We would just go there and have fun. And, I heard you talking about this, Johnny, when you were interviewed by Rick, about the fact that, we were all kids. Basically, we were teenagers. And you started as literally, you were in high school. What grade were you in when you started at KELP?
I was doing news. Before I became a DJ, I was doing news for Rick Glancy. And matter of fact, two of my best job offers was for me to do the news in other markets. And he taught me to, for you guys that don't know, or the people that don't know, Dick Glancy was news director for the McClendon stations, which was Cliff in Dallas, KILT Houston, WKBW Buffalo, and on and on and on. And he had this he wanted this rapid fire, it'd be like, this hour's top priority news headline, just ahead of much more music on the Sonny Melendrez show, boom, boom, boom. And so I did that at KELP when I was a junior in high school. I was the news guy at night from 5 to midnight.
Wow.
And then I wanted to play DJ.
and Pete, you were also, I met you not only at the college, but also you were a newsman at KELP as well. We all started at KELP, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah. Glancy hired me. I remember I sent him, gave him one of those silly little tapes. And a few days later, I called him up and I said, hi, Dick, what'd you think? And he went, that was an awful tape, but come on down and we'll give you a job.
Oh, that was great. Yeah, I remember one time he saw me in the in the hallway, and he says, "There he is, Sonny Melendrez, boy, man."
The closest I ever got to a compliment from Glancy was at KELP. He stuck his head in the door and he goes, "It's not that you're a bad DJ, but you're a better news guy." Slammed the door.
Well, you always had that. Both of you guys had that deep voice. It was just perfect for news. You were so authoritative.
Yeah, we
scared people.
Yeah,
still do. But by the way, Rick, you can go have dinner with Sharon. We'll take it from here.
Yeah, I was kind of thinking of that.
I guess also, you heard Sonny that I never got to date his wife. I mean,
did you hear about that, Pete?
Yeah, well, I was on that double date. Hey,
was that
That's
the
right,
one?
you were.
Was that the one in the limousine?
yeah, I was on that date.
You want to tell that story, Sonny?
I don't remember. Thank
Well,
God.
I think it was a contest for.
Yes.
That Sharon won.
Right.
And it so happened that you were already dating her, so I don't think there was any favoritism in the judgment of this contest. But I think it was draw Herman W. Duck behind the in the studio spinning records or something. I never saw
That's
it.
right.
Yeah. But
Do you want to see it?
yeah, do you have it? Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. So she drew that?
I guess so.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How-
I've had this for some time. That was taken in 1966, and then this was taken in 2005.
Bono.
So-
There's Bono
he-
Duck. Yeah.
Right, he went from Herman W. Duck to Bono Duck. So
how impressive is that?
That's cool.
yeah,
Yeah.
Well, do you remember anything else about that limousine story, Pete?
Yeah, I sure do. I remember a lot about it, and I think there was something that went on afterward too. We won't talk about that, right? we got in this limo and thought, all right, well, let's drive around, and well, what are we going to do? In those days, remember the Hilltop OA there at Bassett Center?
Yeah.
Well, we had in this big old limo, we buzzed the OA and were hassling the in those days they had waitresses that came out to the car.
right,
I think that would
right.
be politically incorrect these days. But we had a little fun, and I think we painted a Mickey Mouse too at some point. I don't know. Maybe Sonny doesn't remember that part.
Yeah, no, I don't.
Good. That's good. Maybe.
Deny.
We had a great time,
Yeah.
It was a time.
and this is all before she met you.
Yeah, I understand. Well, I guess I won.
Good
You
job.
certainly did. You
Yeah.
certainly did.
Yeah. I see next year is 50 years next year. so-
Wow,
yeah.
wow. 37 for us. How about you, Pete?
28. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm
Nice.
third time lucky. I've always been third time lucky.
And Johnny's still looking on the beach.
I've a couple of divorces and been back full boy. What can I say? Maybe third time charm, Pete. Maybe it'll work.
You're
All
right.
Go for it.
You're right.
Silver-haired devil.
Can you guys hear Johnny okay? His volume is really low.
Yeah, we can barely hear him.
Yeah.
It would help. I guess it would help if you just stay close to your.
Yeah, just
Your,
lean into it.
Yeah. I have to tell one. Sonny had this, for lack of a better word, like a record player, and it was a radio, and he would play records on it, and he could also record stuff. Do you remember that, Sonny?
Right,
And it was
right.
Like, it was about this big, and he walked around with it. No matter where he was there, and he would like I guess if a woman said, "Can you play a song?" Sure. He put the record on or record or whatever. He was like a
Yeah.
little walking radio station.
Yeah.
Yeah. Crazy.
Then I also had one of those where it was like a karaoke machine, where you could actually sing along with the radio or the songs. I just interviewed Johnny Mathis, and he told me that when he was a teenager, he would take a recorder and he would play Barbra Streisand records, and he would sing with her and pretend like he was doing a duet with her.
Oh, neat.
And in later life, he actually did. So, there's a lot to be said for what it is you pretend to do and what it is you end up doing.
Yeah, true.
Yeah,
True.
for sure.
You can do that in one of your sessions, Sonny.
That's right. I have.
I like that.
The power of intention.
Yeah.
Good.
All right, so I'm gonna ask you a question. Which of you guys has ever been in an FCC inspection when they walked in on you?
Not I.
I was lucky. No, me neither.
Me neither.
How about you? Oh my goodness, what happened?
Well, for those of you who don't know, the FCC is basically God to us. And so I was on the air, and people will call from station to station. And I thought, Sonny, surely in all your years would have happened. But so they told us that FCC might be in town. So we, they just never showed up. So we said, oh, well, hey, God's in town. We can't do this joke. And we'd tell the joke and then say, oh, we can't say it because the FCC's in town. God's in town. So all morning we're screwing around doing that. And about 10 o'clock, manager Ronnie Marks comes in. He goes, you making fun of the FCC? No, man, they're just, they're probably not here. He goes, I'd like to have you meet God.
Oh.
He walks into the room and says, we've heard people call this God, but we've never heard anybody say it on the radio repeatedly. And I'm like, I'm in so much trouble. And the FCC is like, they can find anything they want. It's kind of like asking an ex-wife not to find anything wrong with you, And so he comes in and he said, let me see your program log. And I showed him my program log and the transmitter log. And he said, oh, I see you got it first. Let's have some technical questions. And I'm like, oh man, I'm dying. And so we go through the whole thing, the FCC, and he hadn't written anything down. And he said, you boys push the line there. And he got real serious and he said, don't cross it, just like that. And so we're like, okay. And so he's going to leave, and then he turns around and smiles and he goes, we tape stations. You do realize that, don't you? My voice was about up here. And I said, yes, sir. And he goes, oh, you guys are going to be real popular when I get back.
Oh,
he did not give us a citation. Luckily, we found a guy that had a sense of humor. So I would have thought you would have had at least one inspection.
No. Now, do you remember how it is Arbitron used to take the ratings? Not the ratings, but used to, not Arbitron, ASCAP and BMI used to do it like once a year. Yeah, you had to write down every song you played for 2 weeks.
Oh, wow.
And then mail that in.
And the composers. Yeah.
Yeah. And now they've got repeaters. They've actually got towers that if a song plays over the airways for more than 5 seconds, it picks it up. And so artists like Paul McCartney can go online and see how much they're making, that day for.
Unbelievable.
Is that incredible to go from us writing down each song to that technology?
That's all that AI stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, artificial. Yeah.
Playing in bands, we'd have sometimes the guy would come in for BMI, ASCAP, whatever, and he was like, well, you can't sing those songs unless you pay him, da-da-da-da. And basically, normally it turned into free drinks and $100, and he was out that door. But
do you remember the guy's name, Johnny, here in town? It was Shorty Cassiano. Remember that? His name was Shorty Cassiano.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Is he the BMI ASCAP guy?
Yeah, he was kind of a little short guy, and he was kind of he was the El Paso God, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
He was
talk to Sonny or Pete.
He wanted to make sure that the clubs had their licensing in order for us bands to be able to play the music. They had to pay their fees and stuff.
Still do. That's amazing to me.
Isn't that incredible? It's just it's unbelievable.
And people worry about tracking you on a shot.
Yeah.
So I've got some pictures that I gathered from my archives. All right, so here's the first picture.
Oh, Sonny Farlow.
See what that is?
Oh, yeah.
That was a show I did with the Resurrection on with Harry Slale, and of course his father was the general manager.
Fantastic. That's Sonny Farlow, and there you are, and there's Tom Jordan on keyboard. He played in my very first band.
Yeah,
About 2 years before this band took place. Wow, right. That's cool.
And Bobby Sotelo.
Bobby, and there's Harry back on the drums.
Yeah.
Harry Slale.
Okay, so check this
Bobby
out.
Looks like a baby.
Yeah.
I've been with him for years.
Oh, look at Sonny there.
Yeah, I think that's the last time I wore short sleeves. but look at Mr. Daniels.
He looks pretty serious.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you're right about him coming in and just kind of checking things out and then leaving for the rest of the day, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Or he'd go get some ice in the refrigerator for his Alka-Seltzer.
KINT AM studio. That's the KINT AM control room.
That's right, exactly.
And who's the Navy guy?
Oh, it was just some publicity shot, you know, for the U.S. Navy or something, I forget.
No, you still.
And here he is, owner of KINT, likes contemporary music.
Wow, that's a big headline.
Exactly. Yeah. And then Pete, you were talking about Sonny and Cher.
Oh, yeah.
Check this out.
That was at the Airport Hilton.
Hey, there's Sue.
It's Sonny and Cher.
It's Sonny and Cher.
Yeah.
That was
little Richard Pachowski.
Richard, that's what I was thinking about. Richard.
Yeah. Bob Young. And his girlfriend de jour. And Don Gary. I forget what his real name was.
And Sonny, I think that was shot at the Airport Hilton, wasn't it?
I believe so. I was out of town. I was actually at a radio convention when that was taken.
Because I have this same picture, only with the henchman sitting right there with Sonny and Cher.
Oh, well, there you go. I guess it was, yeah, because that's the bar there.
Yeah, and that's the bar, and that's where Paul Dillon told me that it was shot at the Hilton, at the Airport Hilton there.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Honey,
nice. That is.
Wasn't it Cher that kept mispronouncing your last name?
Yes. In fact, that's Cher, funny you remember. Right? I still have that recording. So this is Sonny, and this is Cher, and this is and listen to the Sonny, and they just kept mispronouncing it. So I used it as a bit.
Yeah, that's why I remember it. Yeah. You
know who those guys are?
Yes. That's
Mike Ballard.
Yes.
Yeah. And this is the henchman. Yeah.
From the henchman. Yeah.
Yeah. That was on stage of the El Paso Coliseum. They opened for Gary Puckett in the Union Gap.
and Mike and Sharon were in the same class at Austin High School.
Is that right?
Yeah.
I got a couple more here. Oh, look at this. This is kind of grainy, but the plane, Santa Claus arrived and he landed at the Northgate Shopping Center. We circled the shopping center and then landed in the parking lot in the Cessna. And you know what I'm holding in my hand there?
Herman W.
A live duck.
Oh
no! So I'm in the plane with a duck in my hand, trying to keep him from jumping around. You know, the stuff we do. Okay, and then here's another one. This is this was at, I think, either the circus or the zoo, but that's Terry Osborne, Bob Young, and me and my new friend.
Do you remember where that chimpanzee came from?
No.
By any chance, do you remember the name? If that was called Amy, by any chance?
Maybe. Why?
Amy used to be owned by the Kern family. My dad owned Amy.
You're kidding.
And he eventually, he took care of, back in those days, he was the vet that took care of a lot of the animals at the Washington Park Zoo. And Amy we ended up giving Amy to the zoo. And then I don't know where Dad came about getting Amy, but I remember she would, when you came into the kennel room where she was, to her cage area, she loved to grab the pocket on the front of your shirt and rip it off, you know. And, and Dad would take one of his cigarettes and she would smoke it. Oh, it's funny.
That's funny.
Yeah.
And I got one more. There was an article in a magazine. It was a national magazine. And there's a picture of Krosno looking at the article that was about me. And here he is.
That's classic Steve.
I know. He was always ready for a laugh. Anyway, that's my show and tell.
Wonderful.
Man, Rick asked me, I didn't save anything. I mean, I don't know, call me stupid. But, and Pete, what about you? Did you save any stuff?
I pretty much didn't save anything. But recently, I found a picture. I was going through some stuff. I don't know where it came from. And I don't know if you can see it here. You can't see me, can you?
Yeah, no, just hold it up to the camera.
Yeah, that's what I'm going to do. Can you see it?
A little higher.
This is a picture of, there's Dennis Forsyth, Pat Mitchell, Donnie and Danny Dare, and me. And
wow.
I think it was taken at Gillespie's.
Nice.
Wow.
Yeah, that's about all I have, I'm afraid.
You're like me. We just never saved. Yeah.
You just mentioned the name, Pete, that brings back so many fond memories. You remember John Phelan was your first sponsor in Lions Club.
Right.
And then I sponsored you the second time.
Right.
Were we meeting at the Empire Club there at Gillespie's at that time?
Always. We met at the Empire Club. Yep.
Yeah, I put a list together recently of all the places that I remember from the time that we started our club, and basically my memory, which would have been around 10 years old all the way to right now, because I've been a Lion now for like 43 or 44 years. But we started at the Hilton downtown, and then, the Camino Real for a while, and then we went to the Empire Club. But I mean, we've been probably another 7 or 8 places since then, the Hacienda, the Cliff Inn, I mean, all over the place. Yeah.
Rick, you can go back to a regular screen now.
Yeah. Okay. I have one more picture. This was a picture that was taken.
Well, you know what? Go back to a regular screen, and that way we can see it, big for the fold.
Yeah.
Take my screen off.
What's up, Pete?
Yeah.
Well, first, I don't know if you could still see this one, which shows Dennis and Donnie. Pat Mitchell and Donnie and Danny Dare. That's a great one. But on the last day, my last day at KELP, there was a photographer there because it was the first day we moved from the old dump. Remember the old dump on Delta?
Yeah.
Because the station there was built actually on an old county dump, and it stank so badly when the wind was right. This is the first day we moved up to Executive Center. And there was a photographer my last day.
Pete, you've got to frame that. That's historical.
That's a great one.
It's hysterical, yeah.
No, it's historical. I mean, that's your first job. My goodness.
And look at that mic that he's using.
Yeah. Do you remember that we'd try to get the newsman to crack up while he was doing the news?
Yes, I remember that.
And I remember one time they would put they'd take up the grease pencil, because you had a mirror there because you had to enunciate so you can see yourself while you're enunciating, and I forget who it was, but they never cracked them up, never nothing, and then finally the DJ, whoever it was that was trying to crack him up, lit his copy on fire.
Yeah,
we'll be right back.
Yeah, I was the easiest one to crack up. But one time, I mean, Glancy was a real character. One time, he knew all the cops in town. And one time I was on the air doing the top of the hour newscast, and a big cop in a motorcycle helmet and boots came in. I could see him out of the corner of my eye. And he came up with his handcuffs, and he put a cuff around my right arm, and he handcuffed me to the mic stand, which was bolted to the desk. And and then he left, and I finished my newscast, and I looked around. I couldn't get away. So then they came on next with the weather. I did the weather. I'm still handcuffed there. Then the half-hour newscast. I'm still handcuffed. So 45 at the 45 mark, we did sports, and I decided I've got to get off here and somehow get out of this. So I started rattling my chain. Finally, the cop came back in.
That's hilarious.
Oh,
I gotta ask you guys: do you all remember Camille Glancy?
Oh yeah, my mom still knows her.
Well, she was my secretary.
Yeah, she still goes to St. Raphael's Church out there in East El Paso, and my mom sees her every week.
Well, she was when I was working with Industrial Communications, which was just right up from the old KINT building on El Paso. The Industrial Communications was right there at on Paisano, right over the viaduct. Remember, right there, the bridge. My dad's clinic was down right below that, where El Paso Disposal is today. But anyway, yeah, she was our secretary for the whole sales department for I don't know, several years. I was there for a long time, but yeah, it's kind of neat. Pretty cool.
It's amazing what, if you go back on radio, and I know it makes me sound like a dinosaur, but radio today, I call it the malling of radio, like a mall, because you used to, like, say, El Paso. You went to a mall in El Paso, there was the White House, the Popular. There were nowhere else. You'd go to Dallas and they'd have their stores. Now you go to a mall, everyone sounds all the stores are the same. Radio now, it doesn't matter where you go, they all sound exactly alike. And it's just kind of sad. And like I said, it makes me sound like a dinosaur. But personality is what made radio. And KINT is a really good example. Well, KELP too, both of those, because we had a format, kind of, sort of, almost, maybe. But you could, the minute Sonny was on the air, you knew it was Sonny. When I was on the air, Pete, because every jock had a different personality, so to speak. And it was a very personality type driven, and that's what people liked.
Yeah.
And that's why they liked or didn't or would listen or do it. Wouldn't Krosno. I mean, one of them.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, there was nothing.
Never be hired today.
No.
Ever.
No. You're right.
And I think that's why radio is just, of course you got to share with people having music on their phones and stuff, but personality radio, there's only one guy in Orlando I listen to in the mornings, and he's live. Everybody else, it's just I call it the malling of radio, like a mall. Everyone sounds the same. Personality radio, except for this guy right here.
Yeah.
That's it.
This was
my God.
The back of
look at that.
Fab 40. It says, see, KELP.
Fab 40. Okay, so open it up and show the pictures. I'm going to tell you a little story.
Well, this one only has Charlie Russell, Dennis Forsyth, Don Sloan, who is it? Steve Krosno, Pat White, and Pete Heinlein.
Okay. Keep it up. Keep holding it there, because I want to see this better. Yeah. Very nice.
Very good.
Yeah. I've got one that that I just saw, and it has, no, I guess I don't have it, but I do have, this is our KINT.
Yes.
Yeah.
I have one of those too somewhere, probably not here, but
I don't have any of that, man. Yeah, that would be cool. What's funny is Sonny and I both worked at KELP Radio as weekenders as kids, and Sonny won't remember this, but I do, because his very first time on the radio was Sunday morning on KELP. That's right, 5 a.m. Yep, and they had religious music for a while, and then it came on and was top 40. And there wasn't, technology to play it down the line. And I stood on the chair in the newsroom and held the phone up to the speaker, and Sonny's mom and dad were on the other end of the phone.
Wow.
Sonny the first time on KELP. You don't
Oh
remember
my!
that or not.
I do remember that, and I had forgotten about that. That was so wonderful of you to do that.
Well, I mean, it was just, my mom and dad, how are we going to? So we just said, I'll hold it up to the speaker.
Yeah, they were in San Antonio.
Yeah.
And they ended up moving to El Paso back because we
okay.
But yeah. And then what else? It's crazy as it sounds. When I went to LA, one of the stations I worked at was KFI, and KFI is like Clear Channel. It's 640, and it just booms across. It goes
Big 64. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so I bought my mom a radio. My mom and my dad a radio, so they could listen to my show in the evening, because that's when you can pick it up. And in their backyard on Altura Avenue.
Funny is that?
Yeah, you always, you're so, the first person you want to hear is your mom and your dad, especially your mom.
Definitely. Yeah.
And I had my mom on the radio many times, even in LA and here in San Antonio. I would call her up and have these conversations. But
hey,
no,
Sonny,
those are special.
Sonny, do you remember a few years ago when I had you come to El Paso and I set up a show for you at Artavino's?
Yeah, my mom was there.
Your mom was there that night. That's what made me think of that question. That was the first time I'd met your mom. She was really sweet. Yeah.
My brother and I have this beautiful picture. She looks like an angel. She was wearing a white veil, and just beautiful.
She was an angel.
Yeah, she was. And your mom, Pete, oh my gosh. Your mom is Jackie Kennedy. She's June Cleaver. She's a mom's mom. And what a beautiful, beautiful lady. And it's just,
she still lives out there in Eastwood in the house where she raised her 7 kids. She's doing okay. 95 years old.
Wow.
And Pete's beautiful sister Andrea taught my daughter ballet,
and she's still teaching ballet, believe it or not.
Wow.
She was
you guys have good genes.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't know about Tom. He's I don't know.
Hey,
no, we love Tom.
Let me tell you something. Who is it that has the insurance?
My brother Tom.
Tom Heinlein.
Montana.
State Farm. Tom Heinlein.
All right. So they have I guess it's a Lexus SUV.
Uh-huh.
And on the Lexus SUV, my brother and I would drive by there. I said, "Hey, we ought to stop by and say hi to Tom," because we had gone to Pete's house and with the whole family. And there's a Lexus in there, and the license plate said "Forgiven." And my brother Rick and I said, "What must he have done that he had to buy his wife a Lexus?"
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm thinking. Yeah.
Isn't that funny how we all thought the same thing?
And I finally got the nerve to ask Pete about it, and he says, "No, it's a biblical term."
No.
Yeah, that's part of their church.
Yeah.
No, man. Yeah.
It's the way we think. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And probably more truthful for most of us. Yeah.
Right. And I was telling Rick, we do these crazy promotions and stuff. And with KINT, we had no money. We had nothing. So all we really had was ingenuity, to go against KELP. And I remember it was April Fool's Day. And what we did was we sent out all the jocks to all the high schools, and we set it up ahead of time with the high schools, and we'd go in to the office with the PA system, And, Pete would say, "Hi, this is Pete Heinlein, and I'm your new principal." And then we'd put the radio up to the PA, and their principal would be on the air at KINT. And he'd say, "And here's your new here's one of our new personalities." So when I went to Cathedral, I said, "I'm Sonny Melendrez, and I'm your new principal." Yay! And we have a new DJ. He's on the air right now. And all of a sudden, there's Brother Steven, with his really this thick Austrian accent or whatever country he's from, and you hear him say, "This is Brother Steven on the Brother Steven Show, and now the Rolling Stones."
Couldn't do that today, Sonny.
No, but we got to have that much fun. We had that leeway because Mr. Daniels let us do that. Mr. Daniels, I keep calling Mr. Daniels, but before him, there was a guy named Ralph Johnson.
Ralph Johnson. I was wondering when you'd bring him up. Yeah.
He was the general manager. And I'd come to the station in the morning. He says, "Ralph," it was summertime. It was like right now. It was like August. And I'd say, "Ralph, we're going to broadcast from the roof and have girls come in bikinis and give them albums." And he says, "Okay, Dad, just put everything away when you're done." That was it. We were the little rascals,
Yeah, he went to
Ralph Johnson.
Yeah, he went to Vegas a lot as a gambler, and he was always gambling. And he came back one day, and I said, "Did you make any money, Ralph?" And he goes, "Son," something like that. He goes, "If you don't pull the handle, you never get to put your hand down there." And he won all kinds of quarters on a slot machine. He came back loaded with them.
Wow.
Cher. Yeah, Ralph Johnson. I forgot about him, man.
Yeah. Ralph Johnson and Sonny Knight.
Sonny Knight, whose name was really
Sonny Melendrez.
Yeah.
I'll never forget when I got the job and Charlie Russell says, "Okay, we'll have you on in a couple of weeks. We're going to run some promos and you'll start on Sunday," whatever it was. It was in the summer of '65. So the promos say, "Sonny Melendrez is back and KELP's got him." And I'm thinking, what does that mean? And it come to find out that, there had been a Sonny Melendrez who had gone to Phoenix, changed his name to Sonny Knight. Now he was back. He was KINT. And so he was kind of putting the dig to him because his eyes lit up because I said, "Well, what's your name?" I said, "Joe Melendrez." He says, "Do you have a nickname?" He says, "Yeah, my family all calls me Sonny."
Yeah.
Perfect. He is like, "Oh my God, this is great." So then I found out about Sonny Knight and I wanted to meet him. I mean, this is the other Sonny Melendrez. So I remember going to KINT, that screen door, and he comes to the door and I said, "I'm looking for Sonny Melendrez." And he had that great, the last of radio's romantic voices. He says, "I'm Sonny Melendrez." And I said, "I'm Sonny Melendrez." He says, "How you doing?" And that was it.
Yeah. Was he the guy who coined the term, "Get back in the truck, Virginia"?
Oh, yeah. Virginia Juice. Virginia James was his girlfriend, and they were always fighting. And she was always coming and she was catching him with another woman or whatever. And oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. Yeah.
But going back to Charlie Russell, because that was Charlie Russell's idea. Charlie was also the guy who hatched the Sonny and Cher.
Yeah. In fact, it was Pat. You had a picture of him.
Pat Mitchell.
Pat Mitchell's wife said they're mispronouncing Cher. They're saying Cher. And he says, no, it's a play on words. It's Sonny Melendrez. They're going to have him at one of the malls. I forget what the
Bassett Mall.
Yeah, Bassett Mall with a chair. And the saving grace, I mean, that would have been the end of my career, just right there. It would have been short-lived. But the saving grace was all these moms were calling the schools to get their kids out of school to go see Cher, to see Sonny and Cher.
Oh, wow.
And so the superintendent of schools called Gene Roth. Was he the general manager?
Gene Roth.
Yeah, called Gene Roth and said, what's going on down there? And then Gene Roth came to Charlie. He says, what is going on? He says, no, pull that promotion right now. And that was it. So I never had to do it. Thank God.
I got to tell you guys, one of the things that put KINT really, really on the map, and I'm pretty sure Sonny had a connection in LA, and he had a version of like 3 or 4 Beatles songs. You remember? And Sonny would go on and go in the middle of them with this Sunny night voice, KINT exclusive.
That's right.
It killed Kelp. They were so mad. Charlie Russell was calling. Remember that? And
yeah.
They couldn't tape it, and so all through the song he would come on and say that. And so a band, I think it was Jack Duncan, did it. They were playing the song at Eastwood, and they came on and said, KINT exclusive when they were playing the songs live in the band.
Oh, that's great. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
we used to do that because they could record it and then run it on their station, and we had that exclusive, connection with Capitol Records.
Yeah, Sonny was. He produced Spiral Staircase, More Today Than Yesterday. If you look up, produced by Sonny Knight. Yeah,
right. Yeah, and I got a picture with Pat Upton and the band.
Yeah.
There were, Sonny went on, he was in Colombia, and then, in fact, he ended up retiring in Las Cruces. And I think he died like about 5 years ago. Yeah. But before, the last time I talked to him, he was in a car driving. I was in All That Music with
George
Reynoso. And he says, I know Sonny's number. And he called him, and Sonny was on his cell phone driving to L.A. because at that time he was putting together the budgets for these different movies. And he did that for quite a while, living in Las Cruces.
I got to say something, because you said that, Sonny was always, Virginia was catching him, but Sonny Knight was this most handsome. If you designed the perfect man,
he was always had a tan.
Yeah, he was like a George Hamilton, but better looking.
He was. You're right.
It was like mellow honey. And so the owners, I can't remember who it was before Danielson, and they were going to send in this lady to read him basically the riot act. And Ralph Johnson goes, he says, they made a mistake. I said, what's that? And he said, Sonny called and said he was going to take her to dinner.
Oh,
it
no.
was over. But I mean, there was, to say he was a ladies' man was, I mean,
big time. If
you just said, design the perfect man, Sonny Knight.
Design the perfect ladies' man, Sonny Knight.
Well, yeah.
He was.
That.
Yeah, you're right. He was one of a kind.
Unbelievable, and a great talent. I mean, super.
Oh yeah.
We worked at Chris in Phoenix with my dad. Well, we worked at KELP in El Paso with my dad. Then we moved to Phoenix, and my dad was news director of Chris, and Sonny was there. And that's when I met him. So I was a little kid when I met him first time. And KELP Radio, this will mean something to radio people. Doesn't mean anything much to anybody else. KELP Radio in the 50s had Chuck Bloor, who went on to run KFWB in Los Angeles. Ted Quillen was at KELP. Chuck Bloor was at KELP. Jack Reynolds was there, and I can't remember where he brought his air name. And they all went to L.A. And and that was all at KELP. And it was running was McClendon. Operation.
You know who else was at KELP was Gary Owens.
Oh wow!
I didn't know
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Gary Owens was at KELP as well. And here's the crazy thing: they were all like 10 years ahead of us. And so when I went to KTSA in San Antonio, and I won the Billboard Award, I went to LA. And Chuck Bloor approached me about coming to Los Angeles, and I ended up going to LA to be a program director of a new station, KISS, which he had been brought back to consult. And so he had done this nationwide search for a DJ, for program director. And then I ended up also at KMPC, and I worked with Gary Owens. But I mean, how incredible that of all the stations in the country, they would have started at little KLP in El Paso. Right. You know,
that's amazing.
It is.
You know, you guys were talking a little while ago about the personality of radio and what you all do and have done all these years. And where, this is just an open question, just, you know, random question, but where did it all really start changing, where you can't be what you once were or anything like it because you have to be so PC these days? I know there's a lot of comedians that don't even do colleges anymore because you got to be so PC, and they got fed up with it, so they don't they don't do those shows anymore. Where did it all start going south? Anybody?
Consultants.
Yeah. I think after the Vietnam War, the people who were the establishment at that time were under fire because they'd been pro-war. The anti-establishment people won. And on university campuses, as you said, this new successor ideology began to set in. The old was bad. We had to create a new. And we're suffering now 40, 50 years on because the generation we have coming up now, I'm afraid my daughter, who's 24, is in that new generation where nothing's funny anymore. And
you mentioned Vietnam, and if I can say something, and this is I'm sure it happened to all of us, but if you guys remember, they taped KELP, and they would come on and say, this hour of the Johnny Thompson show, or this hour of the people, whatever, is being recorded for playback on Armed Forces Radio. Remember that? And so, and for us, it was like, cool, hey man, we're being recorded. And so I guess maybe 2 years later, I'm at the movies in the East Side, and I'd gone to the bathroom, and I stopped at the snack bar, and this guy says, hey, aren't you Johnny Thompson? I said, yeah. And he goes, can I talk to you for a moment? And I said, sure. And he said, I want to tell you what it meant to us. And I'm going like, where is this going? You know what I mean? It was kind of like, here we are in the middle of the lobby, you know. And he said, I was in Vietnam, and when they played you guys on KELP, he said, it was like, I mean, it's still, I don't want to say over emotion, but he said, you cannot imagine what it meant to us. He said, it was like, you'd be talking about being on Montana Street or this. He said, it was like in our minds, we were home. And he said, I just don't know how to thank you. And I'm like, don't be thanking me. I mean, you don't, you know, and I said, well, we were happy to do it and this and that. But I walked away and I thought, you know, we didn't really realize how important that was. And then if you put ourselves in that, he said, it was like we were home, you know, and because he said, listening to KELP, we all grew up listening to it. And he said, it was just like we were home. And that was an eye opener, whatever you want to say, onto what the radio really means or meant to a lot of people at that time. Not only in Vietnam, but in other areas too. Yeah. So that was a special moment to remember. And I mean, he was thanking me, and I was like, no, man, you know. But yeah, and I'm sure they taped you guys in L.A. and San Antonio as well.
Yeah, no, I had that happen to me. I actually ended up emceeing the 50th anniversary of the 50th anniversary of the USO gala in Paris. It was at Sergeant Shriver's house. It was this big palatial deal, and so the guest of honor was Princess Grace of Monaco, Grace Kelly. Wow. And so she's sitting there next to me while I'm, emceeing and everything else. And I noticed that this guy was filming the whole deal. And I went up to him and I said, and he was with Armed Forces Radio. And I said, could you give me a copy of that, or can I pay you? He says, no, I tell you what. He says, just give me an air check of KMPC in Los Angeles, because he was from LA, and I'll send you the tape. But you're right. That's what it means to those guys, who are over there.
Being home.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was like
exactly.
Being home. Yeah. And, that.
And look at Pete. I mean, you were on the Voice of America. You were around the world every day. I mean, it's unbelievable. The reach that you had.
Voice. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Sonny. Can you tell people that Voice of America, a lot of people don't even know what it is now. I mean, I'm serious.
VOA is kind of invisible in the United States, and that's a bit of a shame, because overseas, it used to be. It's not so much anymore because of the proliferation of media. But when I was working in the 1980s as a newscaster there, we broadcast to in 50 languages, but mainly in English, because people were learning English. And so, for instance, we had a jazz program, and the guy who was the jazz program host was unknown in the United States. Nobody had ever heard of him. But when the group, I remember when, Reagan went to China, he brought this guy, Willis Conover, with him. And nobody wanted to talk to Reagan. They all wanted to meet Willis Conover. It was that kind of a big deal. Voice of America, in Russia, it's Golas Ameriki. I got to meet and talk to Mikhail Gorbachev because he wanted to talk to Voice of America. I got to talk to the Dalai Lama because he was in his country. The Voice of America was what everybody depended on. So when I went to India, he was there. The Dalai Lama was there to talk to me. I brought my little tape recorder, and it was really funny. This guy, the Dalai Lama, sits me down next to him. I turn on my microphone and I start asking him questions. And he reaches over and he pushes the stop button on my tape recorder and says, no, don't ask me those questions. And so I had to negotiate with him. I said, look, he wanted to talk in Tibetan to his people in the diaspora who were begging, they couldn't hear him. And so I made him a deal. I said, all right, I'll let you give a message in Tibetan and then you answer my questions. And he went, all right. And he pushed the record again.
Wow.
Yeah. But the Voice of America was a big deal. It's not so much anymore, although it's still broadcasting.
Well,
it was a big deal when you were on.
Tell everybody about your wife, Pernille, Pete, a little bit about what she's doing. I mean, it's amazing what you all are experiencing right now. Is she around? Can you bring her in?
I don't know. Pernille, are you there? Hey, yeah, I think she is.
Cool.
She's the Danish ambassador to Australia, and that's why we're here. And I don't know. I think she has her mouth full right now.
And New Zealand and Fiji and
New Zealand. Yeah, she took me to New Zealand a couple of weeks ago, last month, and I tell you what, anybody who can get here should see New Zealand, Australia too. But boy, I mean, these are. I'm in heaven these days, guys. It's even better than working at KELP and KINT.
Before we started recording, I was telling Pete that I'd been to Sydney, and if I was younger, I would be gone. Man, I love Sydney. It was been there once. Yeah.
Now, is it real cold in Sydney also right now, Pete? Is it winter everywhere over there? Or?
It's winter everywhere, but except in Canberra, it's fairly. I mean, the cities of Australia are built around the coasts, and the coasts are nice and warm. The reason they made Canberra the capital was because it was the coldest place on the continent. And in those days, about 100 years ago, there was a common belief that the colder the climate, the more industrious the people, and that the people on the coasts were sort of indolent, just spend all their time on the beach, and they wanted a city that got things done, so they started the capital here in Canberra. But it's not bad. This is the dead of winter, and I wish I could turn my camera around and show you the blue sky here.
Oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
It's a gorgeous morning. The temperature is about 50 degrees. It's not awful at all.
That's great.
That's great.
Wow.
And you're in one of the parts of the world where COVID hasn't come back to this Delta variant. I was seeing that Australia and New Zealand are in the clear pretty much.
Yeah, although they're panicking because there's been a breakout in Sydney, and I think there's like 150 cases there yesterday or the day before. They were just, can you imagine if a city in the United States had 150 cases? They'd be cheering, hooray! Yeah. Not here. It's just the opposite.
Well, and I don't know if you all knew this, but, back when COVID was really at its worst, El Paso, I think, was the second worst city in America at one point. But, it was bad. But, it certainly has improved a whole lot.
Now. Yeah.
But we've got some more spiking going on again with this. Not so much the variant. We're not hearing about the variant in El Paso, but we are hearing about more cases of regular COVID. But fingers crossed we'll get through this, guys,
Yeah.
I agree with you, Pete. Everybody needs to go to Australia and New Zealand. Once I worked with a guy, he worked for Viacom, and he was stationed in Auckland. And he said he almost got divorced because they were sending him back and he was going to quit his job. And his wife wanted to go back. And he's like, no, I want to stay. And, she won. But he said that's how much he loved living in Auckland. It was
I know. It's a great place to retire.
Yeah.
Pete, you ought to mention your blog so people listening can start following you.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you for giving me a moment to plug my blog, which is Not That Heinlein at notthatheinlein.wordpress.com. And I'm having a lot of fun writing a whimsical blog about our travel experiences. And there's nothing more fun than getting out and getting people who appreciate it. Like when you say that, Sonny, that makes my, that's
my goodness. Yeah. And your pictures. Wow.
The pictures are incredible.
What's that mountain with a cloud that you just wrote about?
I can't even say it. Aotearoa, which is the Maori name for New Zealand, and they call it the land of the long white cloud. And when we were there, sure enough, there are all these beautiful long white clouds wrapped around the mountains, which you'd think if you look at them, it must be CGI. It has to be artificial, but it's not. It's the real thing. And this place is heavenly.
Wow.
Yeah,
Not that Heinlein. And Heinlein is spelled Heinlein.
That's right. It's not that Heinlein because back in the day, there was a very famous science fiction author, Robert Heinlein. And everywhere I'd go, I'd say, my name is Heinlein. And they go, oh, are you any relation to Robert Heinlein? And I always had to say, no. But now my blog is Not That Heinlein, damn it.
.com.
And speaking of which, Sonny, there's an old, I don't know if this will mean anything to anybody but you and me. One time, Sonny and I decided we're going to go inner tubing down the Rio Grande.
You guys will love this story. This is great.
We went up to Anthony and we had 2 inner tubes and we got dropped off there. And we thought, all right, we'll just go down. We'll tube down to Kenya.
No, we had a one of those rafts.
Oh, was it a raft?
It was a raft, and it needed to be plugged, and we needed to put air in it. And so we went to a gas station, and we had your Volkswagen, and we're holding the raft over on the top of the Volkswagen as we got to the levee in Anthony.
And so we went over to this gas station. And we said, we thought, how are we going to do this? And we were asking for directions. For one thing, there was only about 8 inches of water in the Rio Grande. We're trying to go down with this raft, and it just wasn't working. So we got out, and I think we were carrying this, and we said, how can we get to such and such a place? And this little old guy there working at the gas station, he looks at us and he goes, hell, I don't know. And we just died laughing. And not funny to anybody else.
No. And we'd walk down the Rio Grande and there's no water. And we're walking. Hey, look, there's water. And we get in it for like about, 50 feet. And we were in the pedal. And then we'd pick it up. Oh, but we didn't care,
No.
Great fun.
Oh, funny
Who
stuff.
played in the water all the time in the mountains was Crosno. He would go up there and almost every weekend. And we went up to film commercials for, I can't remember who it was. Anyway, we were filming, it was a Ford, I think it was Ford because Steve had a Ford or whatever.
Right, he had a Mustang.
So yeah, exactly, yeah. And they had an FM radio, by the way. And we went up there, and so after we did it, we were like, I forgot what that little river is, but, and so we all decided to jump in there. And I swear to God, guys, we're in there and goes by. And I'm like, I think that's a snake. Another one goes by. Johnny Thompson walked on water, got out of the water. 2 or 3 other guys are all jumping up and down. And these snakes got in the water. They were like a ball. I guess it was a mating season or something. And that's where we had decided to jump in the water. We were lucky we all didn't get killed.
Wow.
But, yeah, we were filming a commercial up there. Talk about out of control. Yeah.
And do you remember why Crosno would go up there every weekend? There was, first of all, he used to go out there just because he liked it, but there was actually a stream that there was a flood and the stream went a different direction, and Crosno was concerned that all of the deer and all the animals on this side where it used to go wouldn't get any water. So he would go up there and he started building a dam.
Yeah.
And I remember going up there with him a few times and actually taking rock by rock and actually changing the course of the stream back to where it needed to be. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it was, and I lost the manifold of one of my cars going over a cattle guard at, shall we say, a high speed on the way back to El Paso from up there. And but yeah, I forgot about the dam deal, but yeah, he was a forerunner of environmentalist.
Yeah.
I guess, for lack of a better word. Yeah. It was fun.
You know, one of the things that endeared him to El Paso was his genuine kindness. He loved everybody. He was one of the most gentle souls ever created.
I told the story when he died, because everybody was supposed to write a story. And I think I even shared it with Sonny. I'm not sure. I was on the air and this kid was having an emotional breakdown. I mean, serious, like he was in the front of KELP on Rio Bravo. And they were afraid he was going to kill himself. And Crosno left the air, said, hey, take over. I can't make this up. He goes out and everybody's like, what's going on? So Crosno goes out and talks the kid down. And he comes back and he starts making jokes about me trying to take over his radio show. And we just went back to work. But he actually got off the air and went out and talked to the kid and brought him down. And another thing that's kind of special about that is that Crosno was so, in his mind, Crosno was the best friend he had, even though as far as I know, he'd never met him. He went to Crosno for help. Yeah. So, but yeah, can you imagine that happening today?
Amazing. Yeah. And so many times, who knows how many other people he touched that way that we don't know about,
Yeah. A lot of people didn't know the real Crosno. Let's put it that way. Yeah.
No, they didn't. Pete, and one of the people, the standouts that I really love this guy, and I'm sure you all probably had a mutual feeling about John Phelan. He was, talking about TV personalities. Here's a guy that meant so much to me, and I know he did to you too, Pete. He was such a gentle giant. This man never said anything bad about anybody. He was just and we were talking about this a lot, early on, and some other just regular phone calls about, some of the people that have really touched our lives through the years. And I've had so many of them in my Lions Club that have come and gone, Ted Bender, John Phelan, there's so many, that meant so much to me personally as not just family, friends, but just getting to know them and seeing what really makes them tick, And John Phelan was one of those people, just amazing guy.
A giant of early El Paso broadcasting, and few people knew. I worked with him very closely, so I could see he lost one of his hands and had terrible burns from during World War II. He was hit by an explosion. And he lost a lot of function, but he kept on going. And I gotta say, John Phelan fired me from KTSM after I went on the air and I criticized what a terrible performance the UTEP football team had had that particular night. He called me in. He said, "I hate to have to fire you." He said, "But the old man, Carlo Weiler, who was the owner of the station, is so furious. You never criticize UTEP sports on our station, so I have to fire you." But even after that, he went out of his way, and when you brought me back into the Lions Club, he was a co-sponsor and was so supportive even after he fired me. He was a lovely man. Ted Bender was another guy who was a pretty amazing guy. He was the one that hired me to go to KTSM, hired me away from KELP. And he was the old typical Brooklyn Jew. Anything went. There was no PC. He used to call me Pete Crack of the Ass because nowadays, can you imagine if you call one of your something like that? You'd be hauled up in front of God knows what court. And in those days, that's just the way people were.
We used to call Ted 20% Ted because when he did the weather, he was only about 20% right.
Oh, that's funny. Grosno called him Ted Blunder.
Well, you all remember the story. He would go to the telephones, the pay telephones all around the city of El Paso, and there was a rumor going around that he probably bought a car from all of the change that he found from all of these phones.
9 quarters in those little. Yeah.
You guys know when
no
he did
such
the
thing
weather,
like that anymore.
Go really fast, huh? No, I was going to say when he did the weather, he'd go real fast on city by city. He penciled in with a little thin pencil the temperatures. So when he was standing, this was before Chiron and all, that stuff, the fancy stuff. And only he would stand, and I forgot what it was. It was like a number, whatever, and he could see the numbers. And so he'd go, and people thought that he had memorized all of that. And if he stood at an angle, he could see the numbers. And that's what he did. I got a question for you guys. Since we all were in radio, when is the first time you were live on TV? Who were you with when they said, not doing commercials or, like walking out live, totally different feel than being on the radio?
Oh, wow. I remember the first time that I was at KTSM and I was working with Jack DeVore, Neil Thomas, those guys. And there was a certain time of day when everybody went to dinner and I was the only one there. And I remember, I think it was April 4th, 1968. And suddenly we got a bulletin over the air, over the wire. Martin Luther King had been killed. And I called Jack and I said, what do I do? What do I do? And he said, you better break into the programming and go on the air. So Martin Luther King's assassination was my first live appearance on TV.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. Yeah, my first time was when I was in high school in San Antonio. The TV station, the big station here at the time was KSAT, or it was actually KONO TV. And the high school that I went to, Central Catholic, was right across the street. And every high school had a correspondent for this dance show that was on every Saturday. And I was the correspondent from my school. So I would give a report on television to the host. His name was Don Kauser. And I remember this one show because I was real nervous about the whole deal. And they were about to introduce me. But before they did that, they did the top 10 songs of the week. And back then they didn't have all the bells and whistles with the digital stuff. They basically had an art guy downstairs write down, the the names of each songs, and they would cover it up with number 10, 9, 8, and then it was time for the number one song. And so they pull out the deal. He says, the number one song of the week by the Sounds Orchestral, Cast Your Fat to the Wind. the guy downstairs, he didn't know. He just, meant nothing to him.
Well, so, what about, Sonny, the time you got the phone call, I believe it was you, a listener called up and said, could you play that song called 1 Ton Tomato?
Yeah, 1 Ton Tomato. But the best one of all was a guy, he was stationed at Fort Bliss. He says, yeah, can you play a song by the Beatles? It's a Bad Chrysler. I said, it's a Bad Chrysler? Yeah, by the Beatles. I said, I don't think the Beatles have a song called It's a Bad Chrysler. How does that song go? He goes, it's a bad Chrysler.
Okay, so I think my very first time on live TV that I can recall was when our band was doing the live Gene Horn remote for the Gene Horn Oldsmobile dealership when they first opened, and Johnny was there that day. I think he was playing drums also, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we had the turn of the century band there with Hal Urich, and we also had Harry Elias on trumpet. Joe Renteria was singing, I think, or Joe Rivera, who was part of our Basic Sound bunch of guys that we used to book a lot of different venues. And John Hyatt, he was there, one of your radio cohorts, and that was a lot of fun. That I had never done anything like that before, and it was pretty neat watching how the cameras would break for a commercial, and then we'd come back on. They'd give us a countdown and go live again. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, live TV, live radio was lots of fun, but boy, was it! There were a lot of chances for mistakes. I'm sure Sonny has a lot of stories of, like the guy who holds up the loaf of bread and he said, "For the breast in bed."
And you got to keep going.
Yeah,
we've had a few, and. I remember one time I was doing the news on KTSM, and they had an 11 o'clock in the morning 5-minute newscast, and Ted Bender came on right after that with Dialing for Dollars. And I had gone down to the courthouse and got a story. It was a big scoop, and I was so proud of myself, but I didn't have time to get anything ready for the rest of the newscast.
Well, Johnny, I got to ask you, because you had said something to me about what you might do is ask the question about how close did you come to be getting fired? Now, does that, what we're talking about right now, ring true to any of your stories?
Oh, I could tell a lot of those, but the closest I ever came to being fired, and these guys will back me up. Generally speaking, KELP and KINT both didn't really interfere with our programming. I mean, as long as we didn't get sued or something, right? And so I was on KELP doing mornings, and it was, I'm assuming you're talking about tax time. And so I decided we were going to play Taxman by the Beatles over and over and let people tell their horrible tax stories. And some of them were pretty funny. And this one lady comes on, and it's getting, it's close to the end of the show. And she goes, "Oh, honey, I'm lucky I got to leave that office with all my lady parts," which was funny. It was funny. So I'm like, having a good time. And Bill Mitchell walks in and said, "You need to come with me." And I thought, okay. I said, "What's up?" And he goes, I said, "I'm on the air." He goes, "No, he's going to take over." He said, "You need to come with me." And I'm like, I have done much worse than anything I did this morning. So I'm thinking it's got to be something I had done before. I walked down, and you guys remember KELP had that long hallway all the way back down. And I walked all the way back, and I walked into Walton's office, and there's two guys in suits, Walton sitting there, and they said, "Go ahead and sit down." And I'm like, and they were lawyers. And unbeknownst to me, John Walton had been in a tax meeting the day before for about 4 or 5 hours with the IRS. And the guy says, what do you think the odds of the Internal Revenue Service listening this morning thinking that Mr. Walton did not put you up to any of this? And I'm like, I didn't know. And they said, yes, we know you didn't know, but what do you think the odds are of them? I said, well, maybe they weren't listening. And so I said, I'll apologize. I'll call him. He goes, no, we don't need you to do anything. And Walton was sitting there and I thought, man, I'm going to get fired. I really did. I thought, this is it. I'm going to get fired. And he sat there and he said, and Walton, in my defense, he said, guys, the lawyers, he goes, let's see how the day goes. Maybe they won't say anything. Maybe they won't come back on this. And that's what happened. They apparently didn't say anything, didn't do anything. But Walton was arrears in a big tax settlement for like a big meeting for 4 or 5 hours with the lawyers. And the next morning, here I am making fun of the IRS laying tax. Now it's funny. You guys can laugh now, but at the time I was like, that's the closest I think I ever came to like, I'm going to get fired. I mean, this is serious stuff. And Walton said, let's give it some. Let's see. I think they wanted me to be fired immediately in case the IRS came, but he got fired for that, And Walton said, let's give it some time and see what happens. And so that is definitely the closest I ever came to. Those guys, they're really serious. They have no sense of humor,
Yeah.
And that was it.
I actually got fired from KDBC one time, and I was being. I don't know if any of you remember Dennis Kincaid, who was a sports reporter at the El Paso Herald Post. We were sitting drinking in Miguel's bar one day, and it was when streaking was popular, and we said, "Oh, let's go streaking," and we streaked Miguel's, and it was kind of funny, and we were all laughing about it. And went back to the next day at the station. People were chuckling about it. And this one guy, the program director, Charlie Malley, said, "You can't do that. And he fired me. And I was walking out, and he went in to tell Slale that he'd fired me. And Ed Slale said, "You can't fire him." And of course, Slale was the station manager, and he overruled Charlie Malley and saved my job. He said, "No, we've invested a lot of money in him as an air personality. We don't want to fire him just because he went streaking." And Ed Slale, God bless his soul, saved me from getting fired.
That's great.
That is great.
Sonny,
Steve
I know
Crosby
that
fired.
were you ever close to being fired, Sonny?
No, but I've had clients get mad about something that you said, about a product or about the service or whatever, and sometimes people come on the air and they're talking about it, they say something, and just because you let them on the air, then you get in trouble for doing that. But no, not like you're talking about. No, exactly. That's funny.
That's like the station. I can't remember where it was, and they had loaded up a porno movie when they thought they were off the air, and it was going over the air. No one called until the next day. Everybody just was like, "What?"
Oh, that's crazy.
Yeah. Funny stuff, man. Funny stuff.
One time we were on the air at KMPC in Los Angeles, and we used to our sports guys would go out to all these deals, and they would go out to there was the Bob Hope Open was going on at the Riviera Country Club, and it was a big golf tournament. And so we sent one of our interns out there, and we said, "You were going to give a report on it'd be kind of cool because you'll be there, but just make sure that that you get close so you can kind of tell us what's going on." So we went live to him, and he's on the air live, and he's saying, "All right, and Arnold Palmer is about to make the big putt. It's about a 20-footer, and it's going to be breaking to the left." And then just then, an airplane goes overhead and starts making this big, big noise. And so he starts getting louder and louder and louder. And what he didn't know was that our engineer at the station was playing a sound effect of a plane going over. And this guy's in the middle of the crowd and he's yelling. He says, and now he's about to make the putt. And he said later, he told us that everybody just turned around and looked at him.
Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
You guys remember the church I don't remember which one it was in downtown El Paso, and had the bells would be really loud, the loudspeakers. And so back in the day, radio stations would run religious shows on Sunday mornings. And my dad and my brother had gone down, and he was setting up the two-way, whatever it was. This was like probably late 50s, early 60s. And my brother starts playing chopsticks on the piano and the organ. But what they didn't know, that it was mic'd to go out over the speakers, and the cops came because they thought some crazy people had broken into the church.
Oh, no.
That's funny.
Yeah. Yeah, it was. Well, it's funny now. Yeah, my dad thought it was funny. Everybody thought it was funny except for the people who thought it was crazy people. And sure enough, it was crazy people.
Oh, man. Well, before we get off this really fun show today, I've got to tell you guys how special it was for me to see you guys come and help support the Border Legends show that I started in 2009. I had Sonny there for a couple of years that got up there and emceed the show for us. And then Pete came, of course, I think one of those shows when Sonny was here in town. And then Johnny just totally surprised me. I had been trying to get John in here. How many years, man? I mean, probably from the very beginning, but he was always working and couldn't get here and all that. So that night, Charlie Steed was, Johnny's nemesis, his brother. That's another story. But yeah, he brought him over and it just blew me away when I saw JT there. It was pretty cool. But I just wanted to thank all of you guys for believing and coming in here and being part of the Border Legends accomplishment. What we did over the 8 years there, the 8 years that we did the show, it meant a lot to me. And I just wanted to thank you all for being here and sharing your talent and your love for El Paso and your love for the music scene here.
Well, thank you, Rick. And what you've done for the music scene and for musicians to keep that incredible, El Paso sound alive, not only with these great legends that you brought in, but to let us be a part of that, it's very, very special. But and just getting to do this,
right?
I mean, this has been so much fun.
55 years later,
yeah. What you're doing now, Rick, in chronicling this golden era of El Paso band music and radio is a great service. And I think probably years and years from now, historians will be looking back and listening to Rick Kern's podcast.
Well,
I agree.
Thank you, Pete. You guys are the ones that really inspired me to do this. I mean, I've never done radio before. I'm used to sitting behind drums and singing, but this is it's a learning curve for me, and I'm having fun with it. But this is my pay right here, just doing this with you guys, because I love you guys so much. I love our historic patronage that we have in El Paso. It's so valuable, and I want to keep it alive, however that is, whether it's doing a show or, doing a music show or doing what we're doing right now once a week or whatever, I'm always about that. And sometimes maybe there's going to be some books in the future. I hope I can do that. We'll see how that works out, but you all mean a lot to me, and you all are the real pros. And I'm just the guy learning, but I really appreciate you all and everything that you've done.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah. And I want to say, Rick, it goes all the way back to your great dad and his back to the Lower Valley where you and Johnny and I grew up and where your dad's veterinary practice was. He was an inspiration to a lot of us. And I when I see you, I often think, well, there's a chip off the old block.
Thank you, Pete. That means a lot to me, man. It really does.
Yeah, I got to say something, and I think I can speak for, we've been together for 55 years. We had fun. It was a job, and we made money, sometimes $1.50 an hour, sometimes more, but we had fun, and it was enjoyable, and we were very fortunate to do that because we did have fun, and we made a living doing it. But we couldn't have done it, and this sounds so cliche, but we could not have done it without people listening. And so really the people who made everything possible for us, and like I said, it sounds like a cliche, but it's true. If people didn't relate to us and have fun with us and enjoy who they were listening to, none of us would have been here for, still doing some of this sometimes. And so, to me, when I remember Bob Hope saying, thanks for the memories, and everybody saying, but it's really true. And so for us, if there's anybody out there watching this, and they actually remember us being on the radio in the 60s and 70s. Congratulations, we're still here. But thank you. Thank you for making our life where we got paid for having fun on the radio. So, it was a hell of a life.
Well, you know what they said, guys? If you remember the 60s and you weren't there. And that I think that involves edibles or something, Johnny. I don't know. I think that's where that.
We won't go there too much. But I don't know if everybody else feels that way. I think they do. But like I said, without the listeners, because there were days that we just fall down laughing and to think, God, we're getting paid for this.
Right?
Great.
Not that we get paid. Even $1.25 an hour. Sonny and I made it.
Oh my gosh!
That was the greatest. We were overpaid, Sonny, because we would have paid them $1.25.
Oh, couldn't believe that we crank up the volume and play the Beatles, Sonny and Cher, the Rolling Stones. I felt like I was dying to go to heaven. It's incredible.
I won't bring up the ones where the guys that weren't from El Paso that tried to pronounce Hispanic words on the radio and some of them how they came out, because Rick's already told me I can't do it on his show.
Oh, no, can it be any worse than where we've already gone, JT?
Well, I don't know. Okay, well, you can edit it out. You use your discretion. So we hired this guy, and he was from Oklahoma. And we were giving away dinner for 4 at a restaurant. And I'm driving down the street, and this was prior to cell phones. And he goes, stand by. Another contest coming up. Within 10 minutes, we'll be giving away vagina dinners for 4.
Oh.
I swear to God. And I'm trying to find a payphone. And I'm like, somebody at the station had to heard it, and go tell him. And he does it again. And so a lot of people called. Everybody was trying to win them.
That vagina, Fajitas.
And so George, I think it was George, also came in and he said, maybe I need to teach you some Spanish. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. But, only in live, you know what I mean? So there it was.
That's right.
Well, does anybody else want to close this thing out with another?
There's a better one than that.
I think we already did. Yeah.
I think we might be there. Oh gosh.
Well, I'm going to go look for dinner for 4, so we'll see.
Yeah, I might get Bernie Mora on here and do a dinner for 4 for Chico's Tacos or something.
Yeah, that might work. All right, guys.
Well, man,
great seeing all of you.
Did fun.
It really was a lot of fun, and we'll do it again sometime. I'm sure there's going to be a few more stories out there that we haven't covered.
Yeah, who knows? With our memories, in a couple of months, we'll think of something else that we've.
Exactly. That's it. This podcast is still going on after this.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you all so much for taking a little bit of time out of your Wednesday, and this was an absolute blast.
Thursday here.
Yeah, that's right. You're 16 hours ahead of us over there. So, really fun to be with you guys, and thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for what you've done for radio and TV through the years. You've made El Paso a better place, and certainly having your friendship means the world to me. I love you guys, and keep doing what you're doing.
Love you too, Rick.
Guys, take
See you
care.
guys. Thank you.
See y'all later. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to help support the podcast, please share it with others, post about it on social media, and let us know what you think. To catch all the latest from me, please go to Talk and Rock Radio, Facebook, YouTube, and Instagram. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time.